Yes, our viewers, witnesses, it's a very good evening to you. If you're joining us live right now, this is your news network, zimai.com. If you can hear the sound of my voice, to press the share button over there. And also let us know where you are logging in from. Where is my TT? Where is the socialite who is popular with a lot of women who are in the diaspora, particularly in the United Kingdom, following reports that have emerged that are popping backwards and forwards around her well-being. If you're out there and you're following this session and you have something that you'd like to contribute, please type it in the comment box, or you can also come into the inbox actually and you join in, particularly around the first matter that I spoke about there. Where is she? Orikopi, my TT. I'm just trying here to. Okay. So quickly, our viewers, witnesses, good evening to you. Tonight, guess we've got a very brief news review that we are running, and I'm joined by a human rights director for women's rights, who runs and works between the United States, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and several other African countries. Comfort Dondo joining us tonight. Uh, Good evening, Miss Dondo.
Good
Or shall
evening,
I call you Comfort? I don't know how you want to be called, but good evening to you, Maneru Kwamuri.
Rumani Rusiba. Thank you so much, my brother, for having me on. Either way you prefer to address me, I'm fine with it. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Right, Moments, press the share button there. And there's a, just as we start right now, Comfort, I have a lot of people who have been tagging us since yesterday. And they've been asking us to look into the welfare of the ZANU-PF socialite, Maititi Felicitas Murata. And amid allegations that she has been detained at Heathrow Airport and issued with a deportation. And so the details are on Zimai, but I just wanted to say that around this, over the last day or so, is it 20 or 30 hours now? There's not been even a word around or about my TT. Zimbabweans, what do you know about this? And so what I did, Comfort, was to try and just understand, in our team, I had some of my colleagues asking me, "Oh, Simba, can you please look into this? You are around, sort of around the area. Can you please try and check if she is okay?" I would like not to touch too much about that because the story is already published on Zimai. And I don't know, Miss Dondo, do you want to touch on that? But you just want to go straight to Botara Zenika.
Thank you for that up. Obviously, as a women's rights advocate, I would be more prone to wanting to just make sure that our sister, my TT, as she's popularly known as, I hope she's okay. Because I think it's a little bit difficult for her fans if they don't know what's going on. And if the deportation is something that's happening, it'll also be hard for. I'm sure it's hard to get information because of privacy. So hopefully we just sit and wait and hope she is okay. That's what we care about, her well-being. As a people, I think we can go ahead and dive into Nyadze Nyika.
Headline news, absolutely. Zenika. Sakaimbwa na amapona Zenika. Right. So, but just to alert here people, what I've also done tonight is to try and get more further details around this, so I could I can obtain what I can report to the Zimbabwean people. But I think we can jump straight into our core topics here. Well, good evening. I think we're now joined by Advocate Masie. Good evening, Advocate Masie. I trust you well.
I'm okay, Simba. How are you?
Well, thank you very much, and great to have you, sir. Your colleague from the other side, we won't say the other side, is still to come. I'm hoping that he joins soon.
Sorry, Mazita. Mhm.
Aditore Mazita.
Good evening,
Um,
advocate.
eh,
Yes. How are you, Comfort?
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nice one. Great.
well, and I'm hoping that Advocate Masie, before we end, we will be having Dr. Masimba Mavaza so we can discuss the topic of Wicknell-Chivayo. But we have one that has popped up in the last few hours. I don't know if you've seen it, Advocate Marcia. Your other colleague in the industry, in the legal industry, but I guess also in the political circles, David Coulthard, has stirred controversy today around his sudden blast or sudden outburst against Nelson Chamisa's MPs who resigned. And he mentioned two, I think there are two or three who have resigned. There's Rusty Markham, there's Fadzai Mahere, and there's also Daniel Molokele. And what David Coulthard is saying is that the recent by-elections loss is because the MPs did not stay in parliament. They should have stayed in parliament, like he has stayed inside. But as I was just checking on Twitter, I noticed that there's over 300,000, if not 330 or so thousand views on that tweet. Iri kukonzeresa tweet iyoyo, tweet yava quoted. Vari kuti ma-MPs akatevera vaNelson Chamisa havana kuita zvine musoro ende zvekare vakaita. He says that there's a word for it, an English term for it. They gave power to ZANU-PF, and yeah. So, Advocate Masia, maybe I could start with you on that. How do you see? How do you take that?
Okay. Well, yeah. Simba, you always put me on the spotlight on controversial issues, right? But
I apologize.
yeah, I've been like, you want me to be eaten again by those on Twitter? But I'll just state my mind, right?
Yes, sir.
Probably just interpreting what I perceive probably might be going on here. I know, like, when social media, sometimes it can be good, and sometimes it can be bad if it's probably misinterpreted. Because someone just puts out a tweet there, is just probably articulating what's in his mind and then putting it on social media, and by the time you want to justify what you're saying, probably the argument and so forth, where you're coming from, it will be too late. Unongwato lambastwa, wato blastwa, and so forth. But just to go to the MPs who resigned, I believe the resignations of those who resigned was purely based on principle. It was more for saying, well, where this thing is going, and probably the hijacking that had happened. We can.
Sorry, did I lose you?
It looks like we might have lost him.
Yes, I think maybe it's his network or something. Yeah. I'm hoping that he'll switch back in. Yeah. I'm just hoping that Advocate Masia there will switch back in. You were muted, sir. We can't hear you. Artist Kutomonza, we can't hear anything. Advocate Masia. Oh dear.
It looks like it's got net.
The network is here. But anyway, yeah. Comfort, tell me how what's going on. I also noticed that you are in a fight with Kota there.
I don't know. I don't know if I'll call it a fight. I just I responded to what he had written, talking a little bit about responding to his tweet, right? I wrote on Twitter and I was asking him.
I think he's back. Advocate Masia, if you're back, just wink so that you can talk. We're doing just gut feeling at present, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah. Sorry. Yes. Please
Okay,
go ahead,
okay.
and then you can finish, and then she can pick on. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure where. Well, I'm not sure where the cut off, but I'll just probably restate it. I'm saying like the MPs that pretty much resigned. I think the resignation was purely based on principle rather than anything else. Um, and can you hear me, Simba?
Yeah, we can hear you. I forgot
Oh,
to
okay,
Certainly,
mute
okay.
you.
certainly, certainly.
Yes,
Please
yes,
go
yes.
ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And you know, and for them to be castigated for probably resigning based on what they believed was the right thing and what most Zimbabweans thought was the right thing to do, I don't think it might be fair. uh, and also to probably look into probably what Advocate Cottard is probably saying. For him, it's more for an academic analysis, which probably some might not agree with, because those who stayed because of various reasons. We know that there are some MPs who stayed because they were saying they used a lot of money during the campaign, so they wanted to recoup the monies that they used during the campaign. There were some MPs who stayed because they said they were so principled that they could not abandon their constituencies, and they had to stick it out, and remain in position for them to achieve the goals that they'd actually promised their constituents. I think Mr. Coulthard was one of those people. So, but I mean, for him to now come out probably and just now give an analysis of what went wrong, or what to blame the MPs who then resigned and put them in a blanket where to say, well, these guys are the cause of what happened, I don't think it's fair. What was happening before those resignations, I think for him, he has somehow strategically developed amnesia, because what was happening before, we did not see Mr. Cotter talking about it, even before the resignations. We did not see anyone castigating Chabangu when he was actually causing havoc within the party. We did not see a lot of those people who are now vocal, trying to make sure that this ship that already is sailed was is saved and salvaged. So to me, I pretty much, just to conclude on this one, I pretty much don't agree with these probably analysis. It's okay, academically trying to look at probably the mathematics around the losses that then happened after those resignations, and probably during those by-elections. It was inevitable that those constituencies were going to to be lost, because the base in itself was no longer motivated to actually go along with the triple C in its current form. So to me, well, not really putting man at the bus, but to me, I think it's purely unfair to then try to say those MPs who resigned. If you look at the names that you listed, Simba, uh, to me, those are people today, even if you look at their profiles, people who are principled. I bet you none of those guys have ever had a scandal that we know of. Those are people who are principled, and they are still in the struggle. You see them on social media, you see them in their own constituencies, talking to their constituencies. We've seen Fadzai Here lately, giving us information about, the issue of the new currency and so forth. They are pretty much in the struggle. So it doesn't matter whether you're in parliament or not, and so forth. It all matters that, are you a principled leader? And if you're a principled leader, you always lead in the spaces that you are in, whether you're in parliament or not. So to come up probably and just put out a tweet, I know probably you might have been trying to say something, which is not what probably people then interpreted. But I think it's in the tweet on its face, I say it's not a fair judge of or those who then resign from parliament.
Well, Advocate Masia, thank you very much. Right. Dr. Masimba Mavaza has just come in. And Dr. Mavaza, we are due to discuss the main contentious story. But just as you come in, Dr. Mavaza, I'm sure you have seen the tweet by David Coltart in which he criticizes Nelson Chamisa's MPs for what he claims uh, leaving the constituencies to ZANU-PF on a silver platter. Are you there, sir? Dr. Mavaza, I can't hear you. Oh, dear.
You hear me? I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes. So I don't know if you've seen this tweet. It's a very contentious tweet. There's over 300,000 right now people discussing it. And I know you're probably going to be perhaps more supportive of him because but I would like to hear you. Where are you on this?
To start with, actually, we got these by-elections because of Chamisa's inefficiency and a tantrum. He threw a tantrum, runs out of his own political party, and leaving the whole constituencies wanting another member to replace him. By so doing, he gifted us with all those seats. We are happy we have got the seats, but democratically, we expect to fight for a seat with an opponent. In this case, we didn't have an opponent, and it's simply we got them for free, and that's not what we fought for. We fought for democracy. We fought for a situation where we stand up and we will say we have gone for a competition with a competitor, and we have lost or we have won. We need to win with a resounding winning. So whatever my friend Advocate Masie would have said, the truth of the matter is Chamisa had let down the democratic process, and therefore he cannot get any credit for anything. He has messed up, and this is the worst thing the democracy in Zimbabwe is facing. And it's unfortunate those who prophesy to be democratic change movements are the ones who are democratic destroyers. And it's a pity one of them is Chamisa.
Wow. I would have wished, Dr. Mavaza, that Chamisa was here so he can also respond to that. But we've got our human rights director here, Comfort Londo. What's your take on this?
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Mavaza. Well, when Dr. Mavaza was sharing, I want to just comment. So we have heated politics between the right and the left here, and it almost seems a little bit propagandic. Since I'm really steeped into the politics of Biden and Trump right now in this moment, that's what I do not believe that President Nelson Chamisa is by any means a democratic killer. We know who the democracy killers are, those who rig elections by hook or crook. But I won't digress. Pertaining to the issue of David Coltart, Mayor David Coltart, I did write something on Twitter, and I'll paraphrase it. I asked him if it is not evidence enough that he is actually endorsing President Mnangagwa's lawlessness. For him to say that Chamisa's MPs must remain in an unlawful parliament. We all know it's an unlawful parliament. And as a lawyer, I would expect more from him. I asked him, about how Zimbabwe's past true revolutionaries did it. PF and ZAPU, they resigned from Rhodesia. Mzorewa's engagements. We have those examples. We have example of President the late Morgan Tsvangirai resigning, and true revolutionaries supposed to resign, and excuse themselves from any unlawful parliament. I think my former brother who spoke, the advocate, he also mentioned any leader with integrity would excuse themselves from such an unlawful parliament, and they would still lead in their specific spaces. They don't have to stay in that parliament. And then the other thing I want to share, Simba, is that this also brings me back to the Tendai Biti issue. The fact that even David Coltart, as a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. I wish he was there in Zambia to help us strategize when we wanted Tendai Biti to show up. and help us with the processes that he was supposed to go through, so that we did not even have to reach this unlawful 2023 August election. I'll leave it there so I don't take much time.
Wow. Dr. Mavaza,
Yes.
haven't you participated in killing democracy yourselves? Because what you are accusing Chamisa, is it not what you have done, as people are saying?
To start with, let me respond directly to my to my colleague Comfort here. Comfort, I would want to qualify that I am a lawyer myself, and I have understood politics from a different age. But when you look at this aspect, where a political leader abandons his own party simply because he wants to prove a point, that person is a democratic killer.
Apologies. I think there was an error there. Apologies. Please go ahead,
Okay,
Dr. Mavaza.
so I'll continue to say what Chamisa. Thank you.
Is it me who can't hear you, Dr.
What I'll
Mavaza?
say here is what Chamisa.
I can hear him, Simba.
I can hear you very well.
I can hear him as well.
Yeah. So can I continue?
Yes, please. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Mavaza.
Oh, okay. Okay, Comfort. I was saying, in short, democratically, what Chamisa is doing is destroying the democracy he purports to be fighting for. You do not declare an election illegal yourself. There are processes. He has never taken the electoral process to court. The 2023 one, there's nobody else who declared it illegal. All the election observers from the EU have actually said the elections were above board, and the SADC have got had some concerns, but overall the elections were upheld, and therefore the next elections Zimbabwe is going to be in 2028. So between now and 2028, we have to do with what we have: the democratically elected president in Emerson Mnangagwa. So therefore, the elections of 2023 were not illegal, and therefore the success is actually a celebrated one. So running away from a legally and officially won election simply because you lost is laughable. And I think Chamisa's behavior resembles a dog's breakfast. And that is not what we should do as people who are looking forward for a democratically governed country. So what I can simply tell each one of us here is that Zimbabwe is under good hands. And Chamisa is the only one who's spoiling the sport, is the only one who's spoiling the democratic system. Don't forget, ZANU-PF fought for democracy. And it's because of that, it cannot in any way fight what it fought for. So in short, there is no way, not even one way on earth, we can think that Zimbabwe is not a democratically governed state. So in short, my friend, Zimbabwe is in good hands, and we are a democratic state. And I believe that soon or later, Chamisa will realize his mistake and he will come back to the table. How can you say Chamisa is not a joy killer when he's actually begging Emerson Mnangagwa to come to the table and talk to him? On what ground can he talk to him? He no longer runs a party. He no longer commands anything. He's just a person who simply says God is in it. And that alone is laughable. So in other words, we can only discuss a political dispensation with another political party and not a man who has abandoned his political group.
Dr. Mavaza, I'll push back on you to say let's not have selective amnesia, my brother, on that part. We know very well how President Emerson Mnangagwa got into power. It was by a coup, removal of an elected president, then back President Robert Mugabe. And I think we should never forget that. We should never forget the foundations, because if we do not go and look at how this whole started, we are doomed to fail again as a nation. If we're to uphold what we call democracy, fair democratic processes, we have to say, we saw the whole world saw a president being moved out of office. and undemocratically. And so I don't
No,
want us to forget that part.
no. Let me respond to that one, my sister. Where you are seriously mistaken, you are basking into your own glory, which is unfortunately an inflated ego. Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa did not go into power by a coup. There was no coup in Zimbabwe. There was never a coup. There was actually went into power after elections in 2018. The only 1 month he became as a president was simply to hold power, because power cannot be left in vacuum when Mugabe resigned. But constitutionally, when Mugabe resigned, Mnangagwa had a constitutional right to become the president of Zimbabwe, because the vice president Boko had gone to Botswana. Mugabe had resigned. The country could not have been held at ransom. So Mnangagwa was recalled, reappointed, and became the president of Zimbabwe. And then we had elections in 2018, where he won resoundingly and got the presidency after a democratically contested election. And then in 2023, there was another democratically contested election, which Mnangagwa won with resoundingly. And again, when Chamisa realized that he cannot stand against Mnangagwa in any election anywhere on the world, in the world, he jumped the ship and jumped straight into the sea. He's trying to swim himself out, and it's not our business. And what I can tell you is, when you enter politics, you are not entering a church. You are entering politics. So there is no nursing another opponent. When we are in politics, we are in politics. We go to elections. You lose elections, you lose them forever. So in short, yes, I can tell you, Chamisa is literally destroying the democratic rule of the country, and is actually a problem. It is the biggest elephant in the room, in the house, and we can all see that, and therefore we do not need to look for an enemy anyway. We can see one.
Dr. Mavaza, how do we talk about fair elections when we know exactly? I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but all Zimbabweans listening know ZEC, its composition itself is compromised. We know this.
Okay,
Mugabe,
but I think since you don't want to go into the details, let's go to the topic of the day, where
Mugabe,
the
by will,
where
Mugabe is forced to resign.
if Simba, can you?
Dogma Vaza, we are going there. Could I allow her to just maybe drop this question to you, and then we can go straight in?
Yeah, Dr. Mavaza, my question to you is: was President Robert Mugabe, did
That's
he
fine,
resign?
no problem.
He was forced to resign, and that itself is the epiphany of what a coup looks like when a sitting president is forced to resign. And I think there's a sister in the comments who also echoes the same, right? And then the second part of the question is around ZEC. ZEC itself is very compromised, and we all know this. And I'm not going to divert us to that conversation. But when we're talking about a fair election, and we look at who is making up ZEC, that in itself again is compromised. So every process is around what's supposed to be democratic about our electoral process is itself compromised. I don't know how we can talk about fair elections in Zimbabwe at this particular moment.
Yeah. So, gents and ladies, we would like to go straight into the main story, Dr. Mafaza. You know the
Yes,
main topic.
Simba,
Yes, sir.
Simba, I was asked a direct question, which I would answer within a second.
Okay, thank you.
Comfort, to answer your question, the president, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, was not forced to resign. He resigned willfully, and he took his resignation to Parliament, and Parliament was in the process of running a vote of no confidence on him, and he resigned to avoid that. So his resignation was not forced, not at all. And I've answered the question. Over to you, Simba.
Simba, before Mr. Mavaza hangs his boots, can I ask him a question too?
Simba, as you can notice, my network is coming on and off because I'm on the road, but I can still hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, yes.
Yes, Advocate Masia, go ahead, please.
Oh, yes. I could not hear you. I could hear Mr. Dr. Mavaza. I wanted to ask Dr. Mavaza one question. How then did President Mnangagwa become vice president when he had been fired by a legitimate president at that time?
Mnangagwa he became eligible for the president because he was the vice president of Zimbabwe, and of ZANU, was the most senior person by the time Mugabe resigned, and therefore, according to ZANU-PF, a person who is most senior is the one who becomes the president.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's actually, I'm not getting confused.
Okay, Mr. Mavaza. Dr. Mavaza, let me just give clarification here of what transpired. Because I just wanted to show you, Doctor, that you don't know anything about your political party when it came to how Mr. Mnangagwa became.
Go on, I'm listening.
Yes, right. Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa, when the coup happened, he was no longer in those positions that you talk of. He had abandoned. In fact, when he was fired,
is that a question?
No, I'm giving you the answer of what happened. Right, when he was fired, he fled to Zambia.
He was fired and reinstated.
By who? Who reinstated him to be vice president?
He was fired as the president of, as the vice president of Zimbabwe, not the vice president of ZANU-PF. And when the army came to assist, Mnangagwa was recalled by Mugabe himself. I can send you the phone conversation if you want to listen to it. And he was told that he has been reinstated. And therefore, the parliament, when they met at Harare International Hotel, which is Sheraton, Mnangagwa was reinstated again by parliament and again by ZANU-PF.
No, I just want to, I don't argue. I'm not trying. I'm just trying to show you that you don't know. Right. Mr. Mnangagwa was reinstated by the court, the High Court. You have to go and read Justice Chiweche's judgment of a case that was taken to the High Court.
No, that was long after Congress.
No.
The High Court did it the following year, long after Congress.
No.
And don't forget, I was sitting in that court.
No. Okay. I will not go ahead if you don't know what you're talking about. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead to today's topic because I will need to lecture you on ZANU-PF later.
Right, so, Dr. Mavaza, we have here, in the last 2 days, the ZANU-PF president popping out in a picture with a convicted fraudster or money launderer, ED-WICKNELL-UEBERT, in a way that has been criticized of our country and has even brought shame on the president of Kenya, William Ruto. What is going on, Dr. Mavaza? 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. The first thing I have to say to each one of us is that while Chivayo has had a conviction of fraud, which he saved for, Zimbabwe does not run a vindictive type of justice. If you save your conviction, we cannot throw you away because you have been convicted. The purpose of a prison is actually to reform an accused person, a convict. By the time you leave the prison, we hope and expect that you have reformed, and therefore it is a place for learning how to live with others. And therefore, Chivayo has gone through his lessons and he has learned his lessons. And for the president to call him to a meeting with President Ruto, we cannot tell the president whom he should associate with. He makes his own choice, and his choices are presidential choices, and we honor them and accept them. And therefore, there's nothing wrong for Chivayo to be found near the president at any given time. Simba.
Advocate Masir. Advocate Masir.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Oh yes. Yeah, it's so sad that when it comes to international diplomacy, Zimbabwe still needs some lectures, right? Uh, they want to treat the international relations and how they treat, foreign leaders who are respectable in their own countries, as if they are in what can I say? They are in the Twabamu era, where you just have these socialites coming in and they think that probably having them, near the president is what is going to take the economy forward. Uh, Kenya is somewhere when it comes to progress economically, when it comes to even development of various projects within their own frameworks. And to have a whole president, bring in someone like Jivayo, who does not even hold even a position within government, is not someone who is even known within the circles of, governance. And no one really even knows what Jivayo does in Zimbabwe to make his money. And that is the person that you are going to bring in Paduze when you have a president, who's got a progressive economy, probably one of the strongest economies in Zimbabwe, to come in. So to me, I think this whole thing lacked seriousness. I know Mr. Chifai, Dr. Mavaza also thinks that way, but he just has to, say whatever he says. But if it was me probably advising the government, I would say whoever gave an invitation Gunachi Vayo to be where he was or to be doing what he was doing on that particular occasion needs to be fired. Because as a country, we need to be taken seriously. As a country, we need to differentiate between politics of populism, politics of playing around, and then politics of developing relationships with other countries. Kenyans were seeing just ordinary Kenyans. I do have friends within the system in Kenya who were also somehow embarrassed for their president. Right? Like, we know that guy, Chifayo, he is known for buying shoes. What was he doing? Like, So it's all that. It's more of a comical type of diplomacy that we are seeing. And to me, I think is the Dr. Mavaza, postulates about the Second Republic. I think those are some of the things that can be taken as lessons. That despite the fact that it's ZANU-PF this, or probably it's Triple C that, or it's Chamisa that, we just need at least a semblance of seriousness when it comes to interacting with other leaders who have progressively taken their countries to another level. At least to respect them. We are like, Simba, even not even talking about the deco that was there, that it was not gonna size, right? But I mean, like people like Jivayo, they have to be given their own portfolios away from serious zenyika, and kana vachinzi okay vachivayo kana michivayo is now into probably helping the government maneuver tenders within Kenya, then let him be known. Ngatione address yake ku government office kana office yake yokuti if anything goes wrong anditi in these relationships, we know where to get him, we know how to hold him accountable. If he abuses state funds, we know that he abused state funds because he was a state employee or a government employee. But as it is, it seems like there's a parallel system running that is probably being used to acquire certain deals and so forth. I'm just speculating. I'm not saying that is what is happening, but it would seem as if that is what is happening, where you have people like Chivayo coming in purporting to be, representing the government or probably whoever they were representing at that particular time.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Before we move on to our human rights director here, Advocate Marcia, don't you think that you folks who speak like this have failed to connect with the younger generation that seems to be dancing to Wicknell Chivayo, that see nothing wrong with Wicknell Chivayo standing aside Emerson Mnangagwa and William Ruto there? You have failed to translate or to connect your knowledge with their understanding of what is wrong and right. And what do you propose must be done there? It's a question maybe you can answer me towards the end as we shut. Comfort.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Comfort, are you there?
I'm here, Simba. Actually, you read my mind, because that's exactly where I was going, right? My brother echoed everything I'm thinking about. When you really want to make a people reach the point where Zimbabwe has reached, first you impoverish them, right? You make them reach a point where we are, where our humanity as people of Zimbabwe is no longer, our dignity and respect is no longer intact, right? And such that our young people, they look up to men like Wicknell Chivayo, who, as the advocate said, Masia said, he doesn't even have a portfolio. Where are his LLC corporation licenses? What does he do? Where are his cash flow projections? If he's making that kind of money in a country that's being governed well, that should be public records, right? Where are his tax at his tax returns? We want to see those, right? Our young people are looking up to clowns like this pastor I don't know you, the guy who recently said at a rally to our president, which was very embarrassing. Twabam, he says, mbava for ED. Even President Mnangagwa wakati, oh, wakashamisika nazo. And so as a country, we're reaching a point where there's this social light movement that's happening, where we see Chivayo giving cars to the so-called social lights, which I'll say a social light, actually, that's not the true definition of a social light. We will go to that topic another time, right? Our politics has become popular type of politics where we're almost like buying people that we call our social lights or celebrities. So young people are going to there's crowds there. But is that really how we want our country governed? When we see our president with charlatans like Twabam, what does that make him as a global leader? It doesn't look good. And so I think we have to move away also from thinking it's a direct attack on President Mnangagwa. I remember talking to a colleague who's up top in ZANU-PF, and I was saying, who really surrounds our president for advice? Who's really advising our president? And Simba, I'll say this to you. I really believe by the time President Robert Mugabe was at a certain age in his leadership, he was surrounded by similar clowns and people who jesters, right? Who kept telling him what he wanted to hear versus what was really happening, to a point where he disassociated from the reality. And I continue to see that happening with a lot of our African presidents, where we keep saying what the presidents really want to hear versus the reality. Do we have advisors who actually can tell our president, Kuti, posing with this young man Chivayo, it doesn't really look good for him? Or we'll keep trying to manicure that when in fact it looks really wrong. And then in ending, I'll say, what happened with Chivayo and the ZESA money? That's my question. Anybody who can answer. If we want to talk about accountability, and why is he buying folks' cars in the ways he's doing? It's just a question. Doesn't have to be answered. It could be rhetorical. But I'll say, Simba, to your question, have we failed the young people? Yes, we have. Who has failed the young people? Our lack of governance has failed the youth in Zimbabwe. Our lack of governance has failed the youth in Zimbabwe because we have people that we know. Simba, me and you, we know very well the people that are moving drugs into our country. And if we look at Singapore and what happened with the young people in Singapore, when they were tired of a government that wasn't working, the young, sober people in Singapore did something. And so maybe could there be a correlation of why we have an narco sticker throughout Zimbabwe? Why is there an influx of drugs? And why are those drugs coming into our country? Who's accountable? So these are questions we must ask. But who has failed? I will not take responsibility for failing our young people. I am one of those young people who's been failed also by the lack of governance to live in the diaspora the way I am. Imimi Mavaza Muriko ku diaspora. There's a reason why you're in diaspora, brother, because something is not working at home. And so let's start to not point fingers, but ask who's accountable. Definitely the young generation, my generation, I'm in my 40s, and the generation even before me, after me, we've been failed greatly. We've been failed and we've not been given the opportunity to use our skills we learned from here to build our country. We continue to be failed because even if we wanted to come home and serve, the infrastructure is not there with clowns like Twabam and Chifayo, gallivanting and masquerading with money that is not being held account for. And I'll say in ending, I don't want people to forget the gold mafia. When in doubt, go and check the gold mafia. Those are my sentiments this afternoon, Simba.
Thank you very much, Comfort. I would like us to just roll down here. We won't be able to take too long. In the next 5 minutes, we have to end. So I'm going to ask for closing remarks. And my questions are going to be, there are two here. Doc Mavaza, have you not yourself and yourselves distanced the country from reality by contributing to this fake reality that Mnangagwa and all the other leaders are now grappling? So basically, are you not misleading the leaders of your party yourself and hurting the country? To Comfort Rondo and Advocate Masia there, my question to you is, are you not also distancing the youth, the vulnerable, from the facility that should make them to understand what is wrong and fix it? So in this case, this infiltration of convicted criminals into leadership. Dr. Mavaza, please give us your closing remark. 1 minute. Advocate Masia, 1 minute. Comfort under 1 minute. We're done.
Thank you very much, Comfort. Let me start by telling you that I am not in diaspora because of economical hardships in my country. I am in diaspora because I'm working for my country. We can talk about that later in a private forum, but I am at work. So the second issue is simply answering your question, Simba. We are not distancing the country from reality. It's real that we have got people who have been convicted of crimes, and those people needs to be taken back into society. And the only way we take them to society, to power, to everywhere, is to accept them. We have a very accepting president in Mnangagwa who would accept anybody regardless of your background as long as they've changed. And he is saying Chivayo has changed, he is becoming a better man, and we need to embrace him and move forward with him. And the second thing, I want you to understand one thing, that Chivayo has been buying cars for people he deemed to be doing something for the country, for the nation, and for his party. So there are so many millionaires in other political parties. They can buy their members whatever they want. Chivayo cannot be penalized for buying people whom he wants to associate with. He is not using government money. He is using his own money, the money he's worked for. What has he done in his work is the question for Chivayo to answer. But for now, what we can all see, Chivayo has the money and has been buying toys for his friends, for those who are in the same party which he believes in. And by so doing, we cannot penalize him for using his monies the way he wants. We have got freedom of spending our monies, and he has the freedom of spending his money. And again, we need to understand one more thing, that the president cannot be told whom he should associate with. He has capacity to know whom he should talk to. I am a very proud Zimbabwean, and I'm a proud lawyer too. So, and my president is a lawyer as well, and therefore he looks into the person's legal background and he looks into his moral background. And again, when we
Please roll down. Thank you.
When he looks this as I roll down, he understands what benefits the people, what benefits the country. So for Chivayo to be seen standing next to President of Kenya and President of Zimbabwe, there's nothing amiss with it. I have pictures with different presidents. I have pictures with Tony Blair, when he was the Prime Minister of England, it does not mean that I became English by so doing. It is my political activity which would put me wherever I am and do what I can do. So brushing shoulders with national leaders is not a sign of corruption. It is a sign of reconciliation, accepting, and being a good leader. So we have got a listening leader in President Mnangagwa.
Dr.
And
Mavaza,
thank you very much. And
thank you,
Zimbabwe.
thank you, sir. Right, Advocate Masia, your 1 minute, please. Your concluding remarks, please. Have you not failed, Advocate Masia? Have you not failed to translate your learning, your morality into reality for those who are younger or who you consider naive or misled? I think Advocate Masia, we've lost him. Yeah, we've lost him. Come forward, give us your last 1 minute and then we shut. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank my fellow panelists who are here with me today. I think my parting remarks, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, is for now we study, we prepare, and maybe our turn will come. If I would I'll take responsibility of what I may have failed. It may be failing to continue to try to take the risk of, let's say, relocating home and trying to serve in a space that is probably not conducive for me to serve in a place where I probably won't be as successful. Simba, I'll tell you, after I finished my first undergraduate, I went back home. I analyzed the area. I analyzed the opportunities, the risks, versus what benefits I was going to have in terms of being able to serve my country. I was focused on doing research around mother to child prevention of transmission of HIV, because my first degree was in nutritional science. I could not get into doors unless I knew somebody. I could not get into spaces unless I could compromise my own integrity. And because I am that kind of person, I decided to make a choice to go to a place where I could continue to flourish and thrive. And hence, I'm here. So unlike my former brother, he is in the UK to work, not because of financial difficulties. It just also reinforces that in Zimbabwe, it's always who you're connected to, right? There's no equal playing field. And so for that reason, I won't take the responsibility of having failed. I'll tell you what I'm doing, even though I'm a long distance away from home. I'm doing things like shipping back books that are culturally relevant to young people. This December, I'm going to be shipping books that are worth 264,000.
If you can roll down, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll roll down. So I'll say we continue to do what we can from here. But I think there's a bigger population of us who really wish we could be on the ground, hands-on, and serving back our beautiful home country. But because of the environment in which things are operated, the high corruption rates, and the idea of the rubbing shoulders off. If you don't rub shoulders, there's no opportunity. That is why we really can't do that. So for that part of the responsibility, I'll take that away from myself. But we continue to do what we can. Plan, prepare, and maybe one day our turn will come. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much to the panel here. Ladies and gents, Dr. Mavaza, thank you for the discussion. Of yours witnesses, this is our brief one. If you can press the share button, we'll be back tomorrow once again. Thank you to our participants once again. Thank you. By the way, Dr. Mavaza, when we come back, please, we will need to hear more about your 2 books that you've released. And I think
Yes,
Comfort
Simba,
Ondo
can
as
you hear
well,
me?
you do have 2. Yes, we can. I was saying when we
You were
do our
breaking a
next
bit,
session,
Simba.
I was saying when we're doing our next session, to both of you, I know you are all both authors. Please bring us some books, some of the books that you've written, so you can relate some of your your comments to content that you've published. And I think our viewers, and listeners, right now I can see 700 watching, can then follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mavaza. I would love to learn about your
Okay,
book.
Simba, I didn't hear much of what you've said, but that's fine. We will be in touch tomorrow. I'm still on the way, but I'll call you as soon as I get back home. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Comfort, for today, and thank you, Zimbabwe. Have a good night.
Thank you. God bless Zimbabwe. Take care. Thank you.
This is Zimai Media Broadcasting. all round the world, on the spot, on the dot.